Hello, my spooky babes. Now, I know you can't see me yet, but you will shortly. This is just a little interlude, if you will, into what we're going to talk about today. Quickly an update. In terms of true crime, I'm not 100% sure whether I will be introducing that into my channel directly as some true crime YouTubers do. I think I will do it more so if there are stories that are connected to urban legends that happen to be real true crime stories that weirdly coincided or mimicked the story. So that's just a little update. Secondly, as we know, I love my spooky drama, I love my spooky urban legends and lots of different stories. So today I have a little collection for you. One of the first ones is the one known as the Vanishing Hitchhiker, okay? Or the disappearing girl, depending on who you speak to. Now, these stories originated back in like the 1930s when automobiles became a lot more popular and a lot more accessible. A lot of the time people will be driving down dark roads. Obviously the roads weren't as lit up as they are now, and especially if we're talking about more quiet country roads and country areas. And these stories originated, we believe, in America. However, they have crossed over to England as well, and they all seem to follow the same pattern. Now, one version that's extremely popular is the version where the young girl is there on the side of the road, and at first the people driving, usually it's a boy and a girl, boyfriend and girlfriend driving back from, I don't know, watching a drive-in movie, and they see this figure, and this figure tends to be, again, dressed in white, you know how it goes, and they kind of trying to make out who it is, and they then slow down a bit and they see her and they ask her if she's in need of help. She doesn't really say anything at all. She kind of nods her head slightly, doesn't have much of an expression on her face, and gets into the back seat of the car. So the couple kind of give each other a bit of a side eye and are like, okay. They ask her where she needs to go. Now, some say that she whispers where she needs to go, and some say that she doesn't say it so much as points to the directions. So say, for example, the boyfriend's driving and there's a left coming up. She gestures left or gestures right. Either way, she gets to the house, and the boy, being, you know, the gentleman he is, offers to walk her to the door, and she declines politely, thanks them, and leaves, and all they see is her walking towards this very dark house that looks a little bit dishevelled. They both feel a bit shook up from this incident. They're not really too sure what's going on. The girl looked quite sad, and the whole thing just made them feel a bit weird. Anyway, they go off about their business. They do whatever they need to do. And then they find out, either through the grapevine or through some friends, or because they revisit the house to make sure the girl's okay. And say let's go with the revisit the house version. They revisit the house to make sure the girl did get home okay and she was all right, because it all seemed like a bit she'd been traumatized or something. And this older woman opens the door, and then of course she says, "Oh, you must be talking about my daughter Elizabeth. Lizzie, well, she's been gone for about 35 years now. She's actually buried in the churchyard not far from here." And then, of course, the shivers run up the spine, and everyone is like, oh, who the hell did they pick up in the car? Okay? So that's your ghost girl hitchhiker. Now, one of my favourite ones is the prom one. And I believe this was done on a TV programme. I don't know if it was Are You Afraid of the Dark? They did a version of this. This is such a popular one. But this one was like a recurring one that kept happening again and again and again because the two prom dates couldn't find each other. So I'm not going to tell that exact one because probably copyright. But what it was inspired by was a prom date situation. So again, you have either two friends or whatever driving their car along the road. And this time we're set in around the 1950s. And the girl that's on the side of the road is, she's upset. She's been crying. She's wearing her beautiful 1950s prom dress. Think Grease, think the whole dance scenario. And she's wearing her beautiful prom dress, probably with the poodle on it and, gorgeous hair, but her makeup's been running down her face from crying. She's absolutely devastated, and she lets the people who have stopped for her to see if she's okay know that she had a massive argument with her boyfriend, and her boyfriend left her and drove off, and she doesn't know what to do. So they, are feeling really bad for her, and they quickly get her into the car and they say, don't worry, we'll take you home, it'll be okay, such and such. And the girl sits there in the back of the seat and she's whimpering a little bit, and they're trying to make conversation with her, but she then goes quite quiet and just sits with her hands in her lap, just kind of sobbing very quietly to herself. And then obviously they want to give her a bit of privacy, so they just face forward and don't really kind of look at her and want to, just let her kind of calm down, in peace and private. But then they start noticing that the whimpering and the sobbing is getting a bit quieter and quieter, until they don't hear anything at all. No shuffle of her poofed out dress, no rubbing of her hands together nervously, no sniffing of her tears and whimpering of her cries. And they turn around and there's no girl there at all. But that legend, of course, doesn't just stop in the 50s. It goes on from generation to generation, decade to decade, but the girl is always dressed in her 1950s prom dress, in a 1950s hairdo, always crying that she's been left at the side of the road. And some believe it's because it was true, she was left at the side of the road, that her and her boyfriend got into an argument. She, in her anger, demanded to get out. He got frustrated and drove off. Feeling guilty and coming to his senses, it's believed he came back for her, but she was already gone. He couldn't find her. And it was believed that she had met an awful, tragic demise, and therefore her ghost would always appear at that spot and then would vanish out of the car from wherever, as she'd been walking along the road when she was alive. She would vanish out of the car at that point where, in quote unquote real life, had been taken and murdered. That one always creeped me out, I'm not going to lie. That one always creeped me out. So we have a little interlude with this one where, obviously, as you've seen, it's just some imagery and me yapping away. However, I will also be coming with more stories of urban legends, folklore and myths from around the globe to scare the wits out of you for your viewing and listening pleasure. Until next time, stay spooky, stay safe, and remember, I love you.